Patricia Crisafulli, all the way from Oregon. Welcome to A Voice and Beyond. How are you going?
Doing very well. Thank you so much. I'm thrilled to be on the show today.
I am extremely thrilled because we had a pre-interview meeting a few weeks ago and literally we didn't shut up.
No.
It was like we'd known each other for years. It was one of those meetings where you meet someone for the first time, but you feel like you've known them your whole life. So I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about, and hopefully we do come up for air sometimes throughout this interview. But Patricia, and I will call you Trisha from now on, but Patricia, if people want to find you, Patricia Crisafulli. Tricia, you're an author, a New York
Yes.
Times best-selling storyteller, communications consultant, and founder of faithhopeandfiction.com. You hold a
Yes.
Master's of Fine Arts degree from Northwestern University. Okay, so tell us, what work do you do?
Well, it's very simple. I write. No, okay, I'll explain.
Yeah, you
I
do
have
write a lot.
I do write a lot. So in the big part of my world, the one that, pays the mortgage and consumes an awful lot of my time, I'm a communications consultant. I've done this for 23 years after being a business journalist. And I consult with companies. I'm sort of adjunct to their corporate communication staff. So I'm doing white papers and speeches and articles and blogs and helping with communications that companies need done more and more. Especially during the pandemic, we found that good leadership needed good communication
Mm,
behind it. And I've been honored to work with a lot of fabulous organizations. But that's my business world. And then I have my creative world, which is equally important, although it may not match hour for hour. And in that world, I am truly a storyteller. I've been an author of nonfiction and more recently fiction books, including my mystery series, which launched a few months ago. I write short stories. I like to write in the fiction world between uh, in a genre of mystery, but also literary fiction about the intersection of the ordinary and the extraordinary, because that's the moment that inflection point when change happens. So I write business, fiction, nonfiction. It's all storytelling, and that's what defines me and gives me purpose.
that's amazing. So, what has led you to that journey of all this storytelling and writing?
You know, it was inborn. I'm not saying that like I had this raw talent, but I had raw desire. I can remember being like 5 years old and I wasn't a good sleeper. So lying awake in bed and looking at the ceiling and telling myself stories to
Mhm.
pass the time.
Yeah, yes.
And then when I got a little bit older and I had this big epic in my head, right? I wanted to write it down. I got out my pencil and a piece of paper and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote. And four whole sentences later, I looked down and said, there must be something more to this writing business. But it felt like magic to take a thought in my head, a make believe thought, and put it down on paper. And I was hooked. And from seven on, it's all I wanted to do was write. It's been my joy. It's been my business. Like everybody, struggled with it, and I had to get a whole lot better. But I found my voice, which in writing is so important, right? To what I authentically
Hmm.
want to say, even if it is fiction.
Hmm.
And I found my way to express my ideas, my beliefs about the world, and what makes us human and what makes us connected.
Yes, so some of this stuff compared to your corporate world can be rather like going, this is the academic side of me, and then this is what some people would consider the woo-woo side of things. And that's a word that I've learned on this podcast. I'd never
Yes.
heard of the word woo-woo, but I
It's
really
very
like it.
it's a very clinical term. I'm sure it's in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Woo dash woo.
I think we should make it the next new word in the dictionary because they
Yes.
always add a new word every year.
Yes.
Yeah. Did something happen to you then in your childhood where you felt that you were silenced, you didn't have a voice, that you felt that writing was the only way you could express yourself or speak up?
Yes, and it is about speech. When I was a kid, I had a speech impediment. I
Oh,
talked way too fast. I still talk quickly, but I enunciate. And I mumbled. And so, it was like little scared little girl who was tripping
yes.
over her words, and it wouldn't come out, and the kids made fun of me and bullied me. So, but when it came to writing, expressing thoughts to paper, I had a fluency that I didn't have anyplace else. So writing became a refuge and a main place where I could truly get all of my ideas out.
Mhm.
Speed didn't matter, right? If it was pouring out of me, as long as my hands could keep up. So that is what I think helped me find my voice, but maybe more to the point, preserve my voice. Because
Really?
throughout my life, many
What
of
do you
us
mean
have.
by that?
So expression is about what we are sending out.
Mhm.
And if the mouth, for whatever reason, is not able to fully express our thoughts, I felt it was like a dam building up, right? I mean, it was just water,
Mm.
like it was overflowing. And by keeping the flow of words in on paper and of finding that joy, I was able to preserve my voice. And in time, decide that I simply didn't need to be held back by the nervousness and the anxieties that were holding me hostage and holding my words hostage. Now I give speeches and whatever, and it's no problem. People go, "You?" I go, "Yep."
Mm.
Yeah. And I always tell younger people, you never know who's if you have something that you think is holding you back now, doesn't mean it has to hold you back forever.
Did you do therapy or did you naturally, through your writing, become empowered or feel empowered to use that voice and not be afraid?
Um, see all of the above.
Okay.
I love therapy. I think therapy is great. I would encourage anyone and everyone to especially if they're at a point of decision or introspection, or if things aren't going well, like to reach out. And a good therapist is someone who helps you find the answers, not delivers them. And I've been really, really blessed over the years to have worked with a few really good therapists. And in addition, writing, I did a lot of nonfiction essays, and a nonfiction book that's quite introspective about mother-daughter relationships after the mother has died. And all of these pieces of writing, even my novel now, I tell myself, I write the stories that I need to read in this moment. So
Mm.
I'm my number one audience, and I always think I'm not the only one who needs this. So yes.
Yes. Do you learn about yourself while you're writing? Like I have read through the list of the books that you've written, and one I would think that you're a highly curious person.
Yes, yes.
And then it came to mind that I'm just wondering if this is like therapy, but you are learning about yourself as you write and the words are appearing on paper. You're having aha moments.
All the time. Um, in nonfiction, there's certainly the learning and the curiosity that goes, because I'm writing about subjects, and sometimes it was like about leadership or the financial industry during a crisis, which isn't so self-reflective. But even in the lessons that I wanted to explore, there was some part of me that what I needed to learn about what it was like to handle upset or crises, and what happens and who we are in those moments. in fiction, I'm creating characters that I hope are three-dimensional. In my new book, The Secrets of Ohnita Harbor, I have a protagonist, Gabriella Dominici. She's younger than I am, but I know her real well. She's not me, but I have endowed her with a lot of my insecurities and flaws and quirks. And when I have to give her a rationale, I only have to dig into myself, and it really helped. And I'll give you a little example. Gabriella is a librarian in her hometown library, a real step down from the beautiful job she had in New York City. And so those circumstances are different than mine, but she reflected one day on why she loved libraries. And she's realized that having access to all the knowledge of the in the world
Yes.
made her feel safe,
Wow.
because I knew as a journalist, I loved knowing stuff, because knowing stuff makes me feel safe. And so
Really?
that, not smart, not smarter than somebody else, the word safe. And when I typed it out on the screen to give this as Gabriella's motivation, I said to myself, oh, well, I just told a truth about myself that I hadn't really fully expressed before.
How
Knowledge
empowering.
equals safety.
Yeah. And in academia, we always say knowledge is power.
Right.
We don't say
And
it's safe, we say it's power. But I mean, when someone feels empowered, I
right.
think that you do feel safe, don't
Safe.
you? There
And
is a
right.
safety in that.
Knowledge is power. It can be like, one person is trying to get the upper hand on another, and that's not what we're talking about here.
No,
Knowledge as
no,
empowerment, so I can
empowerment.
join the
Yes,
conversation, so I can
yes.
be step up and be more fully myself. Knowledge is safety, so that if I have the deep answers, that or if I require deeper answers, I know where to go. I can go
Mm,
and ask those questions. I know that my voice will be heard when I seek out someone else's expertise.
mm. It's interesting because I know that there are some biographies that you've written, and it's when you ask people about their lives as much as I do through this podcast, I learned so much about myself. And with all that knowledge, you're right, there is a safety because since embarking on the journey of hosting this podcast, I have felt that I have a voice that I didn't have before. Like I'm discovering my authentic voice, and I'm more prepared and more empowered to speak my truth in a way that I never did before by speaking to people such as yourself, the singing teachers, the healthcare experts. I find that through doing this work, through you're writing about yourself or parts of your personality, and I'm kind of revealing parts of mine through this in a way that even my children say to me, Mum, I had no idea about that. I didn't know that you did that in your life. I didn't know that you felt this way. So it's something that it's the only way to express it for me is in those words. I don't know how else to put it unless you've experienced it yourself.
Right. I think it opens the doorway for us. Well, it's like when somebody says, a very simple example. Oh, we went on vacation to the beach and it was great. So somebody says, oh, I've been wanting to go to the beach. Where did you go? Like they make a statement and it opens the door for a conversation. And that's a very, very
Yes.
light example. So when
Yes.
someone says, I suffered a loss, or I had a health issue, or they express something, it also opens us up to be vulnerable, to either share what we've also experienced, or even to hold space that says, this doesn't need to be about me. I'm going to open this space and be vulnerable and find strength and compassion that maybe I didn't even know I had, in order
Mm,
to let this other expression come in. And, I try to create that in my stories as my characters are all, going in different directions. And I know for you, and because I experienced it in our pre interview and I'm going to experience it now, you're excellent at holding that space for other people to express their truth and to step into it. And I'm hoping that everybody hearing us is nodding away, going, yep, yep,
Oh,
that makes sense to me.
yeah, thank you. I would like to talk to you about loss. You just
Yes,
mentioned the word loss, and your first book was Remembering Mother, Finding Myself, A Journey of Love and Self-Acceptance. Now, you lost your mum at the age of
yes,
26. I
yes.
lost my mum last year. So it's coming up to the first year anniversary. And I
Yes,
know that there's a lot of people out there who have gone through loss, especially through COVID, but
yes.
also through a lot of other illnesses and other things that people pass away from, and some way too early, just as yourself. So you talk about this as being one of the most traumatic experiences that a daughter can go through. How traumatic was it for you, and how did it impact you and your life moving forward?
Well, my mother died before I had a chance to really become a peer with her. I was 26 and living in New York City and having my life. And she and I were at a point of not really getting along all that well. I used to
Mm.
say, my mother loves me, but she doesn't like me very much because I was very different. I was very driven. I was off in a career and I was off in a big city, and she worried
Mm.
about me. And,
Mm.
and then suddenly she got a traumatic cancer diagnosis and died and
Wow,
and
like
and
real
so
quick.
real quick within a couple of 2-3 months. And but I have some very pleasant memories of our pain, poignant but pleasant because they're very sustaining. But what I realized was, and she died, and then I had to just live my life without her, except she didn't go. I found that I had a relationship with her that went on because from my case, I had an unfinished business. I wanted to
Mm.
know where she left off and I began. And we didn't have that moment of maybe true separation. We did, but
Yes.
it was kind of fraught. So anyway, I decided, being the journalist I was in the day, to turn her into a research project. So, Remembering Mother, Finding Myself was a book I wrote that looked at stories of women like myself who had lost their mothers at some point in their lives. From the age of the earliest was a woman whose mother died when she was 6 days old. So she never knew her mother.
Wow. My
To a,
father was 2 weeks old when he lost his mum. Yep.
So there's a photograph, there's a story, but yet there was still a something. And on the other end, there was a woman her mother was in her late 90s and she was in her 60s when her mother died. So they had gone the full circle, including to becoming her mother's mother because of the caregiving involved. To a person, I discovered that every individual I interviewed, every woman I interviewed, regardless of philosophy, religion, lack thereof, devout, agnostic, didn't matter. Every single person said, oh, my mother is still around me. She's still within me. She's in my thoughts. And there's a relationship that went on. So, what I
Really?
discovered, yes, because
Wow.
for one thing, either you're saying, I mean, sometimes we say it, oh, if mother could see me now, she'd roll over in her grave. Like, we make jokes about that. But
Yes.
think about what we're saying. We're still perceiving her observing us. Or, oh, wouldn't mom love to be here to see, my garden or my puppy or the kids doing something? I mean, we
Mm.
say these things. And I think it's truly another lens for us to look at ourselves. I wonder how mom would see me as see this time. So finally, I went with it and just talked to women about experiences they had and connections that remained. And indeed, there is a connection. And I found at the end of that book that I felt that she had truly written it with me. And there was
Wow.
permission at the end.
Wow.
You go be you, Trisha. I was me. And the best thing I'll share, and I know we have to lots of topics, but the best advice I ever discovered in this book was go ask your friend, your best friend who knew your mom, her or his impression. In other words, my friend Joanne, I said, Joanne, tell me about your mom. My mom. Oh, your mom, Trisha? Oh, your mom. Oh, she was a fashion plate. Do you remember when she got that beautiful jacket and she let me walk around the high school gymnasium with it? And I remember my friend Joanne like modeling and my mother laughing at Joanne. She said, your mom was fashionable and she was fun and she was these things, which is true, but that wasn't always the disciplinarian that
Mm.
I experienced.
Yes.
So what I saw from my friend's story was the woman, not the mother. And I began to enjoy her and asking her sisters, what was she like as a little girl? And people would tell me stories that they would tell an adult daughter, they maybe wouldn't have told a little daughter
Mm.
when I was a little girl. Anyway, it's the best thing. Ask people who knew her, especially your own best friend, who remembered her or will remember this individual as a woman, not in a parental role. And it's
Yes.
liberating.
It's really interesting because yesterday I phoned the church where my mum used to go to twice, 3 times a week because she was a devout Catholic, being Italian. And they said, "Oh, we really miss your mum. She always sat in the same spot and we still visualize her there. She was quite a woman." And instinctively out of my mouth came, "Yeah, she was quite a woman. She was very unique." And I've had a very interesting journey with my mum. When she passed away, I felt a great sense of responsibility because I had to make some very powerful decisions about taking her off life support. So I was grieving, but I had a lot of guilt for quite a number of months and didn't allow myself to grieve. I wasn't thinking about how I felt in that moment. All I could do was imagine how she was feeling in that moment. And that was really hard to get over. So that was and then I went through anger, I went through abandonment, but not the older version of myself, but as a child, because I
Yes.
felt that I was the one that's always been taking care of her, and I've had to heal that. So it's interesting when you say how other people perceive your mum as a woman and not as a mum. And you have to heal that, don't you, in order to move forward?
Because it's like any of us. It doesn't mean that my mom and your mom were all those other things that we experienced, but
Mm,
there was more, just like there's
yeah.
more to us. And in seeing all sides, it's like picking up a beautiful crystal and suddenly, it's multifaceted, right? When we look at our mothers in that light, we understand why. Sometimes we can see it generationally. And what does it do? I think it's a benediction for them and it's a blessing and a freedom for us. Go be you. You had to make a tremendously difficult decision, but you know, she's at peace. I truly believe she sees you and loves you. Love doesn't die. Love is energy and it's
Yes.
continual and that's
Yes.
always flowing. Yes,
Yes.
and if we tap into that, I think it's the ultimate healing.
Do you believe that sometimes there's signs? Do you see signs? Because
Crazy all the time, all the
I'm gonna,
time.
yeah, I'm gonna say something really woo woo. All right, because
Please, you come to the
I,
right person.
I had a session with an intuitive coach some weeks ago, and she was talking about angels and people. I had people around me. I was surrounded by people that were looking out for me, including my mum. And I live quite high up, and there are shutters that are closed outside of my bedroom balcony. And in the morning, I woke up and there was a feather. Now, there's no way that feather could have got there. And it was about a day
No,
after I'd had this session with this coach. And it was a gray and white feather. And I went and looked up what that meant. I don't remember now, but it was pretty much saying it's a sign that you're being taken care of.
Mm-hmm.
So
And
and then the
also
next
that you
day,
noticed it,
yeah,
is
well, it was
also a sign.
weird. It was weird. It was the weirdest thing how it could have got through there. There's no way. There's just no way. And then the next day, I went to my car and there was another feather behind the back wheel. And I've just gone, okay, someone's trying to tell me something here. And for our audience who thinks this is really woo woo, that's okay. Just go with the flow. Okay.
Just go with it. Hey,
I promise
we'll move
you,
on. Don't worry.
we're going to move on.
But I don't know. I think there's
Okay.
a lot of us out there, and signs are, well, I'll bring it back to my genre. Signs are like clues, right? When
Mhm.
I write a mystery, there's a clue, right? My Gabriella is my protagonist, and she's trying to solve a mystery that involves library and a medieval artifact and the hometown murders and whatever. And she's looking for one piece of information to the next, right? The clue.
Yes. Like
I
a
think
puzzle.
that's a
Yeah.
like a puzzle. I think that's a
Mm.
metaphor for life, is that
Mm.
we know the next step to take and the next one and the next one. And the same thing with signs. I found a feather and it made me think, could this be? And then I saw another one and I said, it's all about how it made you feel in that moment. Those
Yes.
clues, the feather in and of itself was a clue, it was an attention getter saying, hello, pay attention. Something is happening here. It's calling you
Mm.
up into a higher awareness or consciousness. That's how you
Yes.
followed those clues. So, whether it's something you do in meditation or a song on the radio kind of smacks you out of, or me out of the out of our reverie, it's all saying, pay attention, you're alive, there's something for you to do, you're loved, you're blessed, there's purpose. What's your next step?
Mm. And in life, okay, would you say that you travel through life following your heart, your head, or your gut? Because I think our
Mm.
gut feeling is way smarter than our brain most of the time, our intuition. So, where do you kind of put those in order for you? What's most important for you?
Oh boy. Well, it's so I like to think that I follow my head, you know, and because I like that knowledge, and I like to strategize and
Mm.
whatever. And I try to follow my heart and, and be purpose driven. But I can lie to my head, I can lie to my heart, I can't lie to my gut. And
No.
I've over and over in life, personally, financially, in business, with clients, decisions, if something doesn't sit right in my gut, like I
Hmm.
can talk to myself all day long, it's not going to happen. Or I've got to pay attention to something else. Or it's saying, do this. Yes, 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 go. This is the right thing. And so the as much as I like to try to integrate the three, the gut will just literally come up and say, either you look at this or I'm going to wake you up at 2 o'clock in the morning and make you
Yeah.
think about this all night.
So, do you feel then that when we don't follow our gut, that we start to become misaligned and we're not living in congruency? Is the gut sort of like the gauges the temperature of the room and the destiny and where we should be heading in life?
Yeah, and I also think it's a gauge, but I also think it's a bit of a rudder, like it's going to help to steer us. So, I mean, very often in life, left and right, they're going to take us the same thing. The life path is going to loop around. We might take the scenic
Yeah.
route, right? Um, and I wanted to go back to graduate school. I could argue with myself all the reasons why I shouldn't do it. I want to get a graduate degree in creative writing. What a nonsense that would be. And the more I talked myself out of it, the more my gut wanted to do it, until a postcard arrived in the mail from
Mhm.
Northwestern University. I've never seen a piece of marketing material from them before, one time. And I kept it for 4 years before I sent my
Really?
application in.
Wow,
Really.
that's a long time.
Yeah. And I was like, yeah. So our gut, I think, is the rudder that kind of brings us back to truth. We know when we're in misalignment. We know when we're doing, maybe it's a relationship, a friendship, a work relationship that just
Mm,
really, it's time for this to go. Or maybe it's time to move. I really feel like,
yes.
I'm called to be closer to one location to another, or just the way we treat ourselves, too much coffee or whatever it is, or not. We Our gut will tell us, and it'll remind us. And I think it's like that rudder to say, okay, now I'm back over here. And in keeping that gut level, that gut check, people talk about this in business all the time, the gut check, right? It is a gut check. How do I feel? Am I feeling like I can sit in this decision, or do I really need to re-strategize here and say
Mm,
something's got to
mm.
change?
Yeah, I feel off. Like I feel off physically and I feel tired, especially around people that have a certain type of energy or they give off a certain type of energy. I just know I'm not meant to be around those people. And even a decision can feel really off. I had a really interesting experience. It was last November. I received an email from one of the most amazing thought leaders and life coaches, Brendan Bashard, who works with people like Oprah and Fortune 500 CEOs and Olympic athletes, saying that he was holding an event in Orange County. It was a coaching summit. It was not us being coached, but learning about the coaching industry. And I just knew I had to go. I didn't know why, but I knew I had to go. And I told my husband I was going, and he just kind of went, okay, well, if you feel that you need to go, just go. And I did. I didn't know what I was doing there the first 2 days, but I followed my intuition and I kept saying to people who were asking me, what are you doing here? Because they were all high level coaches. I just kept saying, I'm a singing teacher. I don't know why I'm here, but I'm sure the answer will reveal itself over the next couple of days. And it did. And it actually has been life changing. So it's interesting. I mean, I traveled all the way to Orange County. It was over 24 hours to get there and to get back home for a 3-day event. But it was life changing, and I did learn the reasons why. And sometimes in those moments, there are hidden treasures, aren't there? When we follow the true path and when we're in alignment, everything does reveal itself, don't you think?
It does. As you were talking, I'm smiling more and more because I'm thinking you followed the mystery. You knew one
Yes.
thing. The clue was this notice, this invitation resonates with me on a really deep level. Intellectually, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense because it's
No.
3-day event, it's all that way and all the way back, and time zone change and all the disruption in my life and the expense and all that. But I know I need to go. You didn't know why. And when you got there, it wasn't like you went, oh, well, of course, look at this session, look at this. You left in the mystery, and you went through the steps for it to be revealed, because you got to be in it to understand it. And you did that. And I
Mm.
think that's why, I love the mystery genre to write about, because you have to be engaged. It'll pull you in. The mystery pulled you in. And it is a
Yes.
metaphor for how we can live our lives, clue to clue, getting pulled into the mystery and allowing it to reveal the little treasures along the way. Because they can sit there waiting for us, but we have to put the first foot forward toward them.
Mm. So when you're writing a mystery, then this is fascinating because I'm thinking you're the writer, you're in control of the mystery. Do
Ah,
you know what's going to happen in the end, or do you just let it unravel? Like, how do you write a mystery?
well,
When
I
you're the
laughed.
one that's writing it, you already know the people will, does it, or is it a process like me going to Orange County?
Yes, and so I know basically what is going to happen, but my characters always surprise me. Now you're like, Trisha, they are the ones you are creating in your head.
Yes.
But when
Yes.
I'm in the zone and I'm in there and I'm
Yes.
writing and writing,
Yes.
suddenly someone will say something and I'll put down a piece of dialogue or there'll be a decision, or I'll walk out and I'll say to my husband, this terrible thing just happened. And he'll look, I'm like, no, no, in my book that I realized that this person is going to be accused of this thing. And he's like, you didn't plot this out? Like, no, it happens out of the story. And I think most writers experience this. I have a basic idea. Like, this is my setup, and this is going to happen, and this is going to accelerate the thing, the plot, and this is going to be the next thing. And then I'm going to have this wonderful, everything's going to tie up here, and it's going to go off. And usually, somewhere along the line, I make a discovery, or the story starts speaking to me and telling me where to take risks. And sometimes that means the person who's the guilty party is actually the second murder victim. So you got to come up with a different one. That happened on the one I'm currently writing. And it's to breathe into it. So, and my mysteries, which is the Ohnita Harbor mystery series. I have to say that a couple of times,
Yes, no, keep saying Ohnita Harbor
Harbor
mystery series.
Series, right?
Okay.
And the second one's coming out this fall. There's always there's two mysteries. There's a modern day whodunit, right? And book one opens with and this lovely library, and there's a little Gabriella is swirling around being much too busy, and someone invites her to lunch, and really invites her to lunch, Ellen, and she's like, Ellen, I just can't do it, I'm just really too busy, and so much other things are going on, and Ellen is dead 3 pages later, found floating in the harbor. And Gabriella,
poor Ellen,
guilt, poor Ellen, poor Gabriella, poor everyone. And so it starts the whodunit. So we've got that one going on, and as that unfolds. But there's also a second mystery involving an artifact. Every book in my series has an artifact. In book one, it is a medieval cross that somebody donates to a rummage sale. And Gabriella thinks, oh, look, it's a little tchotchke. Put it on the Christmas decoration table for, $5 at the library. Turns out, no, it's from the 14th century. And she, as an authenticator, begins to explore the clues around it. So we've got two mysteries, who killed Ellen and who killed the next person, and what's going on here, and what is this cross? What is this artifact? Where did it come from? Where does it belong? And these two mysteries eventually intersect. Book two, same thing. We've got some mystery, some classic murder mystery going on. What's happened, and because Gabriella comes across, she actually discovers the body, and then we've got a nautical artifact. I'll say that much. Book three, there's a map that goes back to the American Revolution, and a student is killed, and heartbreaking. And so we've always got these two mysteries, and Gabriella is caught between them.
Okay, so there is a link between all the books. When I call that being in flow. This is just language that I would use. When you're in creative flow, anything is possible.
Yes.
On a very small scale compared to what you're doing. I totally get it, because sometimes when I'm shooting a video, I just give myself the first 2 or 3 words. The next thing I've spoken, 2 minutes, minute and a half, whatever, however long it is. And when I listen back, I don't even remember saying any of those words. And it's the same as when I create a podcast episode. I've just finished writing an ebook, and I read it back and I go, wow, this is actually good. How did I do that? I don't remember putting any of those words on paper. Do you have that feeling too? You go back, you don't remember, you're just in that flow, and you allow things to come through you. Sometimes I say to myself, just let the words come through.
Right. That's exactly right. Because I think there's some deeper part of us that the conscious mind, which is also the critic, like, oh no, I said the word but 3 times. Oh, I have to go fix that. And like, oh,
Uh,
and no, wait a minute. And like sometimes the conscious mind is kind of like, okay, this is first draft. Sit down and have a cup of tea, conscious mind. And we get into it, and suddenly the movie plays in my head, in my case,
mhm,
or the thoughts
mhm.
just flow, or you hear it like music, and suddenly it's as if something is speaking through you and
Yes,
to you,
yes,
right? It's
yes.
kind of like spirit just kind of like put a little pop the cap and poured in, and out it came. and
Mm.
and I do think that is what inspiration is, right? it's
Yes.
it's coming through
It's
us.
breathing, allowing breath to come through you and allowing everything that comes through you with that breath to
Yes.
be. That takes, I believe it, like for me, it's taken me to get to a point where I trust myself and I accept myself that I am imperfectly perfect and it's okay to say but 3 times. It's okay to have those little trip ups because I'm being real in that moment. And accepting all of that has given me the freedom to allow me to go into state of flow. So, what do you think about self acceptance and how it impacts all of us?
Oh man, I think I think it's everything. Because if I'm sitting here, um, judging myself or wondering, like, okay, this is really silly. I'm like, why did I wear this turtleneck today? I should have worn something nicer. Because I like the way the colors look, but I don't like the way the neck, and like my head is like fixating on the neckline of my turtleneck instead of saying,
I love
be
turtlenecks.
thank you. But I mean, it's silly things, but those kinds of
Mhm.
little tiny things can pick at us and pick at our confidence. And the next
Yes,
thing you know, or somebody has something in their eye and they do this, and we go, oh no, they had this funny face when I was speaking. And we judge, and we judge almost always
yes,
ourselves. It's taken
yes,
me a long time. I don't know what will finally happen, true self-acceptance or death, but it's a race at this point. But it is a
mm,
process of saying, like, I'm okay and
mm.
I'm enough. But not only that, and this is what came out of the mother book, Remembering Mother, Finding Myself, was not only that, but I have a purpose and there's a reason for my story. And now, I'm writing mysteries, and I say, well, that is the perfect genre for me to deliver my ordinary and extraordinary intersection stories. Like, all this is acceptance of where I am, what I'm doing, and that it has a purpose, and I can work with it, and I think spirit can work with it. Like, we are exactly where we're supposed to be, where we are, and
Mm.
expression comes from acceptance. I
It
can't.
does.
Yeah.
It does. It's trusting and believing that you are worthy and what you have to say is important and you are worth listening to. Because how can others accept us if we don't accept ourselves? That's
Right.
going to come through in relationships. If we want a sustainable relationship, we have to be able to accept ourselves, don't we?
Right. And it comes through in creative endeavors. I mean, every writer is experimenting, and every writer has self-doubt, and every writer, wants to run behind the truck pulling away from the printing plant, going, no, I want to change something on page 17, right? Like, we all want to improve, but in accepting that what I've created is good and has purpose and has meaning to me, and I wrote it with the best of intentions, or perhaps the singer who has performed a song and given an
Mm-hmm.
interpretation, and in that moment, this is what I could feel, and my body and in my mind and in my spirit to express. Like, those moments, we can only do that when we say, I am enough, this is my time, and I'm giving it as a gift. So I'm not elbowing my way in. It's like, I have this gift I would like to give to the world, to those who are listening, to those who are reading. And that can only come when we say, I accept that I've been given a gift and I want to give it back in this form.
Yes. And I think the problem with teenagers that they're seeing other people's Instagram versions of their lives. They have the perfect life. They have the perfect wardrobe, the perfect figure. They have all their makeup. They have what seems to be an amazing life, but people aren't being authentic on social media, because I guarantee you that if you went and had a cup of coffee with that person who's portraying that life, they're probably quite miserable. And so they're not showing us all facets of their lives. Do you believe that with social media, people are not being authentic and it's not allowing others who are observing and comparing themselves to those people, that they feel that they have to live up to a certain expectation?
You know, it's I think social media posts are like those Christmas card portraits we get. And people they go out and they take a family picture, and they're all in matching sweaters or cute little things, and the girls have both,
Oh,
and they're
yes.
adorable, right?
Like the
They're that
Griswolds.
Yes, like the Griswolds. Or it's quite frankly myself on my wedding day when, and this big dress, whatever. Like it's a version of ourselves we want to present. And it's in that moment, but it's not everyday life, right? Like, and
Mhm.
so what, my mother used to have this expression. She'd say, a poor workman blames his tools. And I don't think we can put all the fault on social media,
Oh,
but
no.
on ourselves as saying,
Yes.
we're using this as like, this is telling me how I should manage my life. No,
Hmm.
you're looking at the Christmas card version of someone's life. I've put on 47 pounds of makeup and done one of these cute pictures on social media too. And that's not what I look like when you come up to my door and I'm putting out the
Hmm.
recycling. Okay. Um,
No.
but we need some discernment to say, I understand, what these posts are like and what we do, and not to use them for either for entertainment. Maybe there's some inspiring quotes, maybe there's a good blog. If I'm doing something though that makes me feel bad, I need to stop doing that.
Yes,
There's an old
absolutely.
joke that says, "Doctor, it hurts my arm when I do this," and the doctor says, "So stop doing that." It's a very, very, very old joke. But truly, it's like
It's
if
so
I'm
basic.
on Instagram or on Facebook or any kind of social media, or the TV, real whatevers of whatever, and all I say is, I don't look like that, and I don't have that person, I don't have that car, then don't do it. It's not serving you. That's not a tool that's going to help you get where you want to go. Instead, be discerning and to know
Yes,
that you and your wonderfulness can enjoy, be entertained, be inspired, and snack this. Don't make it the main menu.
exactly. Now, you have written so many books. You're writing this series of mysteries where poor Ellen dies in
Poor
one of them.
Ellen. And
Yeah.
Gabriella is
And
always in
Gabriella's,
danger. Always in danger.
I don't want to be Gabriella. What would you say is your greatest legacy? Out of everything that you've done, what do you think is the most important for you or important to other people when you leave this earth?
I hope I've been a good friend, a good mother, and a good partner to my husband. If
Mm.
I have hit any of those things to the best of my very flawed human capability, if I made my friends feel loved and seen, if I supported my son and now his wonderful wife and going for their dreams, if I've loved my husband enough and accepted his love back, like that's the only legacy that matters. And with my
Mm.
sisters and my extended family, but like this core of just the who of me, because that is all we have is it's the who we are, not the what we do.
Yes, or what
Yes,
we
or what we
have.
have. Oh, and as for stuff, That's perishable.
Where can people find your books?
Well, I'm the usual places where especially online, it's Amazon's and
Hmm.
Barnes and Nobles, but also independent booksellers, right? And
Yes,
I do believe I'm in across the US. I think I am in Australia. I think there is a
yes.
bookseller in Australia that has me, and also in the UK. So it's the old, if Google, if you can spell it, Patricia Crisafulli, you'll find me. You can find it through my website, faithhopeandfiction.com, or if you can spell it, The Secrets of Ohnita, Ohnita Harbor, and you'll find me.
Well, we're going to share all your links in the show notes anyway. Just in wrapping this up, what advice would you give to those who are living life with limitations of what their possibilities are?
I would say stretch out the boundaries, stretch them out. Sometimes it's too scary to say, make that big leap, right? Of going back to school or taking that graduate course or doing this. It's just too big and it's just too daunting. But there is a step that pushes the boundary a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left and a little bit forward and a little bit back, is to kind of push against it, because sometimes there is a limitation that is real. It might be physical, it might be logistical, it might be health issue, it might be just the way life is because of circumstances, and okay, but there's usually a workaround. And sometimes in accepting that what looks like a limitation, an amazing door opens up and we
Mm,
can find purpose in something that pulls us through to the other side, to something that we didn't even know was possible. So my
yes.
advice is live in the maybe and see if you can push it to a yes.
So rather than living life in the black or the white, live life in the gray.
Yeah. Give it a little push, a little push. What if you
Yeah.
could? I used to know a very wise person would say, I can, I can, I can't, which was always one of my favorite things to say. And she
Mm,
would say to me, okay, you can't, but what if you could? What if you could? And next thing you
yes.
know, suddenly that it gets a little gray and the boundaries get pushed back a little bit, and there's a little more space and a little more breathing room and a lot more possibility.
Amazing. Well, we're going to share the links to everything, to you, your books, your website, so
Thank
people
you.
can go and buy your fabulous books, learn more about you. What are you up to next? I know you've got this book. Is there another book in the pipeline?
Yes. Yes, there is. So I book one is out, book two is coming out, book three I'm racing to finish, and I want there to be a book four, because I'm not done with these wonderful characters in my head yet, and they've got at least one more misadventure to have.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much,
Oh,
Patricia.
thank
It's
you.
been such a joy having you here and sharing some really profound conversations, some of which were a little woo-woo probably for our listeners, but hey, there's a lot to learn here. And I hope that everyone receives this with an open mind and an open heart and open to the possibilities. So thank you so much. And I hope the weather starts warming up for you, and looking forward to book number 4.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Tricia. Much love to you.
Bye bye.